Hey guys, it's Chris from Breweries, Bars, and Beer Food. Today we're hanging out in the Bend Brew Pub for Deschutes Brewery, hanging out with Gary Fish, the founder and owner of Deschutes, and just enjoying some beer. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's an awesome day, and we're going to have some good beer and have fun.
Well, since you led into that so well, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Black Butte Porter. It's been our flagship all along. It's a beer that I don't drink as much as I should. I don't know why. Maybe I fall afoul of the whole dark beer thing occasionally myself, but every time I have one, I wonder why I don't drink it more often. It's a delicious beer and a perfect beer for this kind of day.
Oh, absolutely. I have already had one of those today, and it's a perfect morning coffee, great flavor, get you going beer.
Absolutely.
And I'm drinking one of your new beers. This is the River Ale, and I'm going to let you tell a little bit about this.
Well, the Deschutes River Ale is really based on the first beer we ever brewed here, which was Cascade Golden Ale. And the formulation is basically the same. We've tweaked the hops a little bit and really worked to bring the alcohol content below 4%. As we seem to be in this kind of arms race in the craft beer movement for more hops, more alcohol, more, it seemed like there's a counterbalancing desire for something a lot more sessionable, something that's somebody can have one or two of and feel comfortable afterwards. And that's something that we've worked hard at for the last few years, trying to get a beer that is very, very sessionable with all the body and flavor that they look for in a true craft beer.
Yeah, well, I think you guys definitely nailed it. This is light, it's crisp, it's refreshing. This is a very, very tasty beer. I'm definitely very happy with it. And you're right, I think you are seeing a trend in craft beer where we've kind of, I don't want to say we've topped out on the ABV and the
I don't think you could ever say that. I mean, there's always somebody who wants more, right?
Right. Well, there's guys out there that are always trying something else to just come up with 100 ABV or whatever. But I like that there is a motion going towards lower ABVs, more sessionable beers, so that people can enjoy a couple beers without risk of being an idiot or getting behind the wheel of a car.
I love nothing more than coming into our pub and hanging out at the bar, talking to the locals, having a couple of beers, enjoying the end of the day, and good conversation, good friends, great feel of conviviality in that environment. And I don't want to feel like I've got to go take a nap afterwards.
Right, exactly. So we're hanging out at the brew pub down here, and this is where it all started for you guys. And we look out the window and we see a much different picture than you saw 25 years ago.
Well, 25 years ago, my wife and I moved here in 1987 with the intent to open the brew pub. And Bend was a very different place. I can't remember, I think the population sign on the edge of town was either 12 or 15,000 people. Now it's between 80 and 85. And that's even after the recession took its toll on the community. So it was a very different place. A lot of the storefronts were boarded up downtown. Now they're all thriving businesses. It's a very different look. People didn't know quite what to make of us either coming into town. It was very much a kind of a light beer town, and we were coming in refusing to serve any of those nationally distributed brands, only serving our brands, beers that didn't taste like that had a lot more flavor, and we got a lot of long looks from people in those early days. I like to say that a lot of the people that came out to see us in those days really just came out to watch us fail. And we were kind of a sideshow attraction to a certain extent, but we survived, and we've grown, and we've become an important part of the community, and we're very proud of that.
Okay, so you moved here in '87. Why Bend?
Well, Bend, it was like for most people who moved to Bend, it was a lifestyle choice. We were actually looking around Northern California for a place to locate without any luck at all. I was living in Salt Lake City. My folks are from California. My wife was still in Salt Lake City. I was helping a friend open a brew pub in Sacramento at the time, and none of that was really working for us. And both my parents were born and raised in Oregon and had come through Bend after a college reunion in Corvallis, and couldn't stop talking about what a great place it was. We came and looked, and they were absolutely right. The recreational opportunities, the small town lifestyle, it was kind of the high desert, which is basically where we were coming from in Salt Lake City. And we really fell in love with it virtually immediately. And the town was incredibly welcoming in terms of developing the business. Every question where we were getting no's in California, we got a yes here. And
Nice.
It was a very different time back then. Bend was coming out of a horrible recession. It was originally a timber town, and the timber industry was largely decimated in the early 80s. And so it was in transition as well, converting to what would be its new economy of kind of recreation, some small manufacturing, and really a more business-friendly environment. And we loved where we were at. And remember, our business plan at the time was only a little pub. The pub next door, before we expanded where we are now, the pub next door that was the sum total of our business plan at the time. So we had pretty modest ambitions, and nobody could have predicted what was to come in both the industry and the area in and around Bend.
Yeah, sure. There in 1988, there wasn't a whole lot of craft beer out there.
There was not a whole lot of craft beer out there. I think there were 2 bars in town that served any craft beer at all. They had a few extra taps, but that was it. And everywhere else was pretty much major domestic light lager. And again, it was a blue-collar town, still to a large extent is, and people didn't know quite what to make of us. But they gave us a chance. They trusted us. We made friends, and we survived the tough early years to participate in what's been one of the greatest business movement stories in America with craft beer. Oregon is unique, and people ask me all the time, why Oregon? Why did it settle here? And there's no study that answers that question, but I can tell you my opinion. And my opinion is there was a perfect storm, a confluence of several factors that came together. Number one, you had some entrepreneurial, basically homebrewers that wanted to take their hobby public. You had a willing legislature that wanted to work with them to help them try and do that. And then finally you had a consumer that was extremely interested in trying new things and experimenting. Now remember, most of Oregon, not over here on our side of the mountains, but on the west side, lives in the rain most of the year. They do most of their consumption indoors in pubs and local taverns. They're not grabbing a six-pack and going to the beach. So, they're consuming a higher portion of their beer on draft at a tavern rather than in a can going somewhere else. And that lends itself very well to the craft beer movement. The brew pub, draft beer is less expensive to produce because it doesn't require all the packaging equipment than bottled or canned beer. And all those things kind of came together to create the movement that we have. But more than anything else, like all things in the consumer goods category, it's consumer driven. Yeah. If you don't have a consumer willing to try dark beer, you're not going to sell a lot of dark beer.
Yeah.